Before we begin, in 2019, YouTube was caught data mining children under the age of 13, violating the Child's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. Since settling, YouTube has enacted new policies meant to dodge responsibility and scapegoat creators. This video is not made for kids. It is not targeted at kids. It is not advertising to kids. Parental discretion is advised. Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is the Sentinel watching over geekdom, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. Doctor Who Series 12 continues with Spyfall Part 2, written by Chris Chibnall. As always, I will be discussing spoilers. I will try to put a spoiler warning when we get there, so you know when you have your chance to leave, because I don't want to spoil the episode for you if you haven't seen it yet. So let's get in there right now, and real quick, if it looks bad, I want to apologize for the slight difference in lighting. I spent all day running errands. It is 8:40 p.m. and I just finished the episode. And I have to spend all day running errands tomorrow, so this is kind of it. Now, anyway, on to Spyfall Part 2, which I'm debating on this. I don't know how much I liked it in comparison to Part 1. I don't know if I liked it more than Part 1, on par with Part 1, or less. I have a rating in my notes here, but it's for the two-parter as a whole. So, I'm gonna just skip my general thoughts and sort of get into the specifics. I liked the plane scene. I felt it was really creative. In fact, I liked all three of the companions in this episode, even though they didn't really get solo moments. They didn't really get a chance to shine for each themselves. We did get some good stuff with them and as a group, and we got a rapport with them. We got camaraderie with them. It was all great, like especially the scene in the construction zone when they're just talking, trying to figure out a plan. It was a really good scene for them. And, you know, we got a little bit, like how the doctor specifically calls out Graham as the one who panics, or she leaves the plans for surviving the plane crash specifically in Ryan's name. And it's things like that, which is good. All this stuff with the companions is good, which I think is important because the companion side of the story is the weaker half of it. You know, Lenny Henry as Daniel Barton is a good villain, but I don't know when exactly it happens, but this plot kind of fizzles out a little bit, which is a shame. And it's also kind of a shame that as a pawn of the Master and working with the Kasavan, the aliens from the previous story, Barton gets no form of comeuppance, which was a little disappointing, I will admit. Also on the performances, Jodie Whittaker is phenomenal. Like, I've loved her throughout Series 11 and continuing with Spyfall Part 1, but here, oh my god, you know, like, Series 11, Jodie Whittaker's Doctor was very much fun-loving. She was very adventurous. She was always the optimist. You know, I keep comparing her to Tom Baker. And then in Spyfall Part 1, she got more authoritative. And here, she feels really powerful. It feels like she's really nailed it down now. Like, she has a power and a presence that I do have to admit, for as much as I like her, she was kind of lacking previously. And a lot of that might have to do with the presence of the Master. I'm holding off. I will talk about Sasha Diwan's Master, and I will get to it in a moment. But there was something else I wanted to talk about with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. And it's gone. I'm sure it'll come back to me. So, I'll just go on from there. Sasha Diwan's version of the Master. With his reveal in Spyfall Part 1, I was worried that, like Michelle Gomez, like Alex McQueen, he was going to be another John Sim. The consolation being, of course, that, like Michelle Gomez and Alex McQueen, he does it better than John Sim. And that's actually not really true. He's not doing the John Sim Master again. He's very contained. He's very subtle. He's very quiet. But there's always this anger to him, this sort of unbridled rage. And he does have these moments of, he does have these outbursts where he lets out some of that manic energy. Like, if I was going to compare him to a master, I'd say a much closer comparison would be Anthony Ainley. Because, again, he was very composed, but he was prone to these outbursts. And I love the dynamic between the 13th Doctor and this Master, which, whereas the Doctors are numbered, the Masters sort of have nicknames to them. Like Jeffrey Beavers and Peter Pratt are the Decayed Master. Michelle Gomez is Missy. Eric Roberts is the Morphin Master. Sir Derek Jacobi is the War Master. The fandom has sort of started taking to calling the Sasha Diwan Master the Spy Master, which, is fun and kind of ties into Spyfall and and his little look for the Spy Master, which was fun. But anyway, yeah, I love the relationship between the 13th Doctor and the Spy Master. Every scene they share together is just electrifying. And we get a new sort of dynamic. Like, with David Tennant and John Sim and Peter Capaldi and Michelle Gomez, we had this sense of former friends turned enemies, but the friendship and respect was still there. It's not here with this Master. This relationship... Why am I making these comparisons so much? This relationship is much more Tom Baker and Peter Pratt / Jeffrey Beavers. It is animalistic. There is just this rage, this anger between them. And the scenes between the Doctor and the Master are the best part of the episode. And it's really where Jodie Whittaker and Sasha Diwan get to shine. Speaking of calling back to Classic Who, I forgot to bring this up in Spyfall Part 1, but the TCE is back, which makes me really happy. It's one of my favorite master weapons, and it's so much better than the laser screwdriver. The only one who used the laser screwdriver effectively was Derek Jacobi in the audios. But the TCE, it's just a much more horrifying weapon, Like, it shrinks someone down, killing them as they're shrunk. And if I was to rank the master weapons real quick, it would be the TCE, the sonic parasol, and the laser screwdriver. And there was a point I was going with that. Oh, it was something else Classic Who brought back. It's a really short scene. It's a really sort of blink and you'll miss it reference, but it's one I love. When Time Lords engage in telepathic conferences, in sort of telepathic meetings, mind meldings, what have you, they usually do it with a declaration of contact. I was so happy when they did that in Spyfall Part 2. You have no idea. It only ever came up once in the series, in the 3 Doctors, but it's come up in the expanded universe a lot. I am an expanded universe nut. And so, yeah, just seeing that reference made me so happy. Is there anything else I want to go on? Before I get to some other major things, I liked the Master's costume in the 3rd act. There's really nothing more to elaborate on there. It's just, it feels familiar, but it feels like there's a new spin on it, And there is something I want to talk about really quick, because a lot of people are saying there's a debate on where the Sasha Diwan Master is, Because a lot of people are saying he's an alternate universe master, or he's a hidden regeneration between John Sim and Michelle Gomez. No, I think he is after Michelle Gomez. And people are complaining about that because they killed off Michelle Gomez. The John Sim Master killed her off and said, you got the full blast, you can't regenerate. Here's the thing. Go back to Classic Who and watch the Anthony Ainley era of the Master. The Master has been, because everyone is saying, how did the Master survive? We better get an explanation. The Master has been burned alive, hit with his own TCE, torn apart by the figures of a fictitious reality he created and left behind as that reality ceased to exist with him in it, and abandoned on a dying planet. How did the Master survive? He's the master. That's all the explanation you need. Anyway, after that little tangent, there were things I was critical of, like I mentioned Daniel Barton specifically. The aliens themselves, the Kasavan, they're kind of underdeveloped. They were poorly utilized. Like it was brought up that it was just, they've been spying on history throughout. All the maps of Earth you found are not alternate dimensions, they're different time periods, which was creative, but we never got a lot beyond that other than the Master just saying, I helped them with their plan, and I'm going to betray them. But yeah, they were underdeveloped. Also, we got some... After being trapped, after being imprisoned by the Kasavan in the last episode, the Doctor escapes and finds herself in 1843, and later 1834 and 1943, where she meets some historical figures. In 1834, she meets Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace, which is really extraordinary timing considering, again, expanded universe nuts. In the expanded universe, we just got an Ada Lovelace story last year. And then in 1943, during World War II, we got... What's her name? I'm going to butcher this, excuse me. Noor Inayat Khan. And they kind of feel tacked on almost. There's... Like, in the grand scheme of the episode, their presence is explained. The Kasavan were sort of tracking and following the people who were instrumental in the development of the computer so they could infect it. But yeah, when you really watch them in the episode, they're such a non-presence, and they feel almost superfluous. Was there anything else? Oh, the humor in this episode is much better. Because, like I said, the Logan scene, specifically in Spyfall Part 1, was really cringy, and some people were kind of mad about the I've had an upgrade the Doctor told to see in Spyfall Part 1, which has nothing to do with her being a woman. The Doctor is a bit of an egotist. She always sees the current model as the superior one. Watch episode 1 of The Twin Dilemma. The Sixth Doctor did the same thing. But yeah, no, the humor I found in this episode was much better. Like, when Ryan, Graham, and Yaz sort of get the jump on Barton's agents, and Ryan is saying what's going on, Yaz is just like, Ryan, don't tell them the plan. I found that kind of funny. Let's see, anything else? Nope. The explanation for the plane, how the Doctor set up saving Ryan, Graham, and Yaz as the plane crashed, feels really tacked on as well. It's like, as the episode was being edited and they were going through rewrites, it feels like someone somewhere along the line realized, oh shoot, we set up this big reveal with the plane and we forgot to go back and do it. So, now we're going to start... Oh, there is one more small thing. I noticed in sort of the final scenes with the hologram, the Master's hologram in the Doctor's TARDIS, has that staircase always been there? I don't recall seeing it in the Series 11 console room. So is it like an upgrade? But anyway, yeah, we're going to get to the big spoiler. This is your final warning if you haven't seen Spyfall Part 2. And it really only ties into the events of the ending. First of all, the Master destroying Gallifrey. Because, again, people went nuts, sort of going, Gallifrey was just brought back, why did you do that? First of all, Stephen Moffat, yes, brought back Gallifrey and the Time Lords, and then did nothing with them. But here's my thing with it. My issue with David Tennant and Matt Smith, the reason they're my least favorite Doctors, is the role they played in the grand scheme of the universe. The Doctor in those depictions was too important. and because here's how to go from here. There's a YouTuber I like named Diwan Hagen, and she explained this beautifully. So I'm going to use her argument for it. The Doctor is a rebel. That is the Doctor's character. That is who the Doctor is. And the new show, with Tennant and Smith, tried to make the Doctor the highest authority. By definition, you cannot be a rebel and be the highest authority. And for all its problems, because it is terrible, that was the one thing I liked about Hellbent. It brought back the Time Lord, so it took away that mantle of responsibility from the Doctor. Because David Tennant and Matt Smith's Doctors, making them the highest authority, it just turned the Doctor into everything he didn't like. There is a reason he left Gallifrey, and part of it was the bureaucracy and the responsibility of the Time Lords. He did not like that. And suddenly he has these responsibilities and he's relishing them. So I'm really worried that, one minute, I almost forgot to mention this. If you're into the expanded universe, get The New Adventures of Bernice Summerfield, Volumes 3 and 4. Because they do that story, the Doctor as the most important being in the universe. And they do it so much better just by the addition of the fact that the Doctor, in those sets played by David Warner, absolutely hates it. This review is ending up being really ranty. Anyway, so I'm worried that with Gallifrey gone, that responsibility, that sense of importance is going to be thrust upon the 13th Doctor. Which, if that happens, we'll have to see how it happens, because if they do it like David Tennant and Matt Smith, I'm going to be really disappointed. And that brings us to one more thing, because the Master says he destroyed Gallifrey, hearkening back to the Timeless Child from the Ghost Monument. Which means there is a possibility, it's only episode 2, we'll see what happens, that the series-long story arc is back. Woo. And here's the thing I've mentioned about this. I hate the series-long story arcs because they were never done right. They were not stories, It was loose string of references crammed into the background of episodes that when you get to the finale, hey, did you see those references? Guess what? They meant something. That's not a story. That's a Where's Waldo book. Or Where's Wally for any of you who live internationally. It's why, when I talk about the story arcs, I cite Series 8, The Promised Land, as my favorite. Because it's the only one that comes across as being a story arc. Now, like I said with Spyfall Part 1, benefit of the doubt, I do imagine that if anyone could do a series-long story arc and have it be done right and have it be done well, it would be Chris Chibnall. Because he seems to be someone who excels at long-form storytelling. Again, like in Spyfall Part 1, I know Broadchurch and Doctor Who are two vastly different wheelhouses, but for Chris Chibnall's work outside of Doctor Who, it's the only point of reference I have. So anyway, aside from that, Spyfall on the whole is great, and thinking about it, it might actually be one of my favorite Master stories. I haven't ranked my Master stories, and before I do any kind of ranking on that, I need to see a lot more Roger Delgado stories. But on the whole, I'm going to give Spyfall, the two-parter as a whole, an 8 out of 10. But those were just my thoughts on Spyfall. This episode specifically Part 2. What were your thoughts? Please start a conversation in the comments down below. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share my video around. It helps my channel grow. In the description box below, you'll find the link to my Ko-fi, where you can support the channel, and you'll find the link to my Twitter, where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is the Sentinel, watching over Geekdom, and I'll see you guys next time.